Sometimes the most devastating silence is not born of coldness, but of peace. There comes a moment in life when the storms you once ran toward no longer interest you, when the urge to prove, to fight, to be understood fades like an echo in a long hallway. You look at the person who tried to hurt you, who expected to see you broken, and realize something almost divine has happened. You feel nothing, not anger, not even the satisfaction of revenge, only a vast, calm emptiness that feels like freedom. That is the quiet miracle of indifference, not the apathy of the heartless, but the strength of a soul that has finally stopped bleeding. It begins with pain, of course, always pain. The sting of betrayal, the humiliation of being misunderstood, the burning question of why. You spend nights turning over every detail, crafting imaginary confrontations in your head, rehearsing speeches that will never be heard. But with time, the fire eats itself. What once felt unbearable becomes strangely hollow. You wake one morning and realize you no longer wish to explain anything. The ache remains, but it no longer owns you. That's when healing begins, not with closure or apologies, but with the quiet decision to stop participating in someone else's chaos. People who hurt others rarely understand the power they crave. They feed on reaction, your anger, your tears, your desperate attempts to make sense of their cruelty. Every word you throw back is a confirmation that they still matter. And yet when you turn away, not in rage, but in stillness, something shifts. You take back the script. You rewrite the ending. They no longer stand at the center of your suffering. They vanish into the background like a minor character in a story that was never really about them. It is a strange, sacred moment when you realize that indifference is not emptiness, it is clarity. It is knowing your worth so deeply that you no longer need the world to recognize it. The Stoics spoke of this centuries ago. They called it mastery of the self, the art of not being ruled by what happens outside. Epictetus taught that events themselves hold no power, only our reactions to them do. But these words are not merely philosophy, they are survival. Because when you've been betrayed, humiliated, or discarded, the temptation to strike back is intoxicating. You want the world to know you were wronged. You want the one who hurt you to feel your pain. But vengeance is a slow poison. It ties you to the very thing you want to be free from. Only when you stop reaching for revenge does your hand finally open enough to receive peace. And peace, when it comes, is shockingly quiet. It doesn't arrive like a storm, but like dawn after a sleepless night. You begin to breathe differently. The air feels lighter. You see the same faces walk the same streets, but you move differently now. You no longer walk to prove. You walk to live. The person who once caused you sleepless nights becomes just another passerby in the crowd, one more fleeting silhouette in the long film of your life. You catch a glimpse of them maybe, and for a second the old pain stirs, but then you smile. Not from triumph, but from release. Because true indifference is not about forgetting. It's about remembering without suffering. It's standing in the same place that once broke you and feeling whole again. It's knowing that the greatest revenge is not success, not vindication, but serenity. The kind that no one can disturb. The kind that makes your silence louder than any shout. There's a strange dignity in silence, the kind that unsettles those who expect noise. When someone hurts you, they crave the echo of their own power. They want to see you react to confirm that they still live inside your mind. But when you withdraw your energy, when you neither attack nor defend, something in them collapses. Your stillness becomes a mirror, and in that mirror, they finally see the smallness of what they've done. You become untouchable, not because you hide your pain, but because you have transmuted it. The same fire that once burned you now warms your hands. In the beginning, this kind of silence feels unnatural. The body wants to scream. The heart demands justice. You think that by confronting them, you might find closure. Yet confrontation often gives birth to new wounds. Words twist, truths are denied, and the cycle begins again. Indifference, on the other hand, is the quiet refusal to feed that cycle. It is the understanding that peace is not found through winning an argument, but by stepping out of the arena entirely. You watch the chaos spin itself out untouched while you walk a little further into your own life. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." It's easy to quote, harder to live. Because not being like your enemy means surrendering your need to be right, to be seen, to be understood. It means letting go of the satisfaction that comes from proving your worth. But when you finally do, you discover something extraordinary. You are no longer defined by what was done to you. The person who once caused your pain becomes irrelevant not through hatred, but through the sheer force of your becoming. There comes a day when you stop checking their social media, stop replaying old conversations, stop wondering what they think. You simply forget. Not because you forced yourself to, but because your world has expanded beyond them. Their name no longer stings. It floats through your mind like dust in sunlight, present, but powerless. This is the kind of forgetting that only growth can bring. It is not erasure. It is transcendence. And perhaps the cruelest truth, the one that no manipulator can bear, is that indifference cannot be faked. They can tell when you are pretending not to care. But when your detachment is real, when your peace no longer needs to be performed, they feel it. They sense the distance, the void where your attention used to be, and it terrifies them. Because they realize they no longer have access to you, not your thoughts, not your emotions, not even your anger. You have become a closed book they can never read again. Time, as Marcus Aurelius said, is like a river. It carries everything away, every wound, every injustice, every name once carved into your grief. And as it flows, it reveals something humbling. The things that once consumed you become small. You look back one day and wonder how something so trivial ever had such power. That is the quiet power of emotional evolution. You do not need to strike back because life in its strange symmetry always balances the scales. Indifference, then, is not cruelty. It is mercy toward yourself. It is choosing to heal instead of haunt, to release instead of repeat. It's saying, I will not let this story define the rest of my chapters. You walk away not as a victim or a victor, but as someone who has learned that peace is a form of rebellion too. The most haunting form of punishment is absence. It doesn't shout, doesn't slam doors. It simply leaves, and in leaving it rewrites the power dynamic entirely. To walk away without explanation, without one final word, is to reclaim something sacred, your silence, your selfhood. The person who once held your attention is left suspended in their own noise, searching for a reaction that will never come. They wanted to feel significant through your suffering, but what they face instead is the echo of their own emptiness. At first, they may laugh at your withdrawal. They might call you cold, prideful, even heartless. But time is an unrelenting teacher. As days stretch into weeks, the silence begins to weigh. They scroll through memories, replaying the moments when your voice filled the space between them and their conscience. Without it, there's nothing left to distract from their own reflection. That's the invisible cruelty of indifference. It turns the manipulator inward, forces them to sit alone with their own intent. You don't punish them, they punish themselves. For you, the journey after walking away is not instantly peaceful. There are quiet nights where old emotions flicker like embers. You may doubt your decision, wondering whether indifference was avoidance or wisdom. But then you realize something subtle has changed. You no longer crave closure from them. You crave wholeness within yourself. You no longer need to be understood. You long to understand. Slowly, your thoughts drift less toward what happened and more toward who you are becoming because of it. That shift, barely perceptible at first, is the soul's declaration of independence. In the solitude that follows, something beautiful unfolds. You start noticing things again, the texture of sunlight on your hands, the sound of rain against the glass, the rhythm of your own breathing. The world feels intimate, as if it had been waiting for you to return. When you no longer orbit around someone else's gravity, your own center begins to form. That is when healing turns into creation. You build not to prove anything, but because you can. And when success comes, and it will, it does not roar. It glows. You find yourself smiling more, speaking less, living deeply. Every step forward becomes a quiet defiance of what they tried to destroy. Your happiness becomes their undoing, not because you sought to hurt them, but because nothing unsettles an ego more than seeing the one it wounded thrive. There is a silent poetry in that the way your growth becomes the mirror of their failure. But beware the temptation to flaunt this peace. True power never performs. It does not need an audience. When you live well, the universe becomes your witness. You learn to let your calmness speak, to let your presence be your statement. Those who once sought to control you fade into the background, irrelevant to the story that now unfolds, a story written entirely by your own hands. And in that story, contempt plays a quiet, necessary role. Not the burning contempt of arrogance, but the clean, surgical kind, the erasure of influence. Hatred keeps the bond alive, but contempt severs it completely. You no longer remember them with emotion. You remember them as a lesson. That's the final stage of freedom, when the past stops bleeding and starts teaching. Somewhere in a quiet room, they might still think of you, wondering why you never called, why you never screamed, why you vanished like mist. But you owe them nothing. Your silence is not an absence of feeling. It is the presence of self-respect. There comes a moment often unnoticed when you finally stop looking back. The world ahead seems clearer, wider, as if a veil has been lifted from your eyes. You move differently now, not in haste or defense, but with the quiet assurance of someone who has survived themselves. The old pain doesn't disappear. It transforms. It becomes something refined, something like wisdom. You realize that you are no longer running from what happened. You are walking toward who you were meant to become. Self-control, you understand now, is not a cage. It's liberation. It's the power to feel everything without being ruled by anything. The one who once tried to provoke you, who played games with your emotions, who thrived on seeing you off balance, they can no longer reach that place inside you where chaos once lived. You've built something sacred there, stillness. And stillness, when earned, is stronger than rage. It carries the same power as a storm that chooses not to strike. The Stoics called this the highest virtue mastery of the self. They believed that power lies not in dominance over others, but in sovereignty over your own mind. You have power over your mind, not outside events, Marcus Aurelius wrote. The first time you read those words, they sound like philosophy. But after pain, real shattering pain, they become revelation. Because when you truly grasp them, you become untouchable. You begin to see that the world can do what it will. People can lie, betray, disappoint. But none of it can dictate your inner state unless you allow it. And that realization is the quiet birth of peace. The one who hurt you may never apologize. They might move on as if nothing happened. But your healing was never meant to depend on their conscience. The mind longs for fairness, but the soul seeks freedom. So you stop waiting for justice to arrive, wrapped in their regret. You build it yourself in small acts of self-respect. You begin to wake up each morning not to prove your worth, but to live it. The anger that once consumed you turns into clarity, and clarity is its own revenge. There will be days when memories return like ghosts. They will whisper, trying to lure you back into the old narrative. But now you know how to meet them with calm acknowledgement. You don't fight them. You don't invite them in either. You simply let them pass like wind through an open window. That's how peace sustains itself, not by blocking out the world, but by letting it move through you without staying. And when people ask about your past, you no longer flinch. You can speak of it with softness because it no longer defines you. You've learned that forgiveness isn't always about absolution. It's about releasing yourself from the loop of pain. Forgiveness, when it comes, feels less like grace toward them and more like mercy toward yourself. You forgive because you are tired of carrying the weight, because you deserve to walk light. So you keep walking, Through days filled with simple joys, the warmth of morning coffee, the hum of the city, the laughter of someone new who sees you without the old shadows, you start to trust life again. You start to trust yourself. And with every quiet, dignified step forward, the past loses its hold. The silence that once felt like absence now feels like space, a space where your soul can finally breathe. Time, faithful and cruel, does what neither anger nor apology can do. It collects. Slowly, it gathers the fragments of everything once broken and lays them in your hands like lessons carved from stone. You look at what once felt unbearable and realize you have already survived it. The memories that used to cut now seem distant, softened by distance and perspective. It's not that you've forgotten, it's that remembering no longer hurts. That's how time heals, not by erasing, but by reshaping what remains. Those who wronged you often believe silence means surrender. They mistake your calm for weakness. But as months pass and no reaction comes, a strange doubt begins to grow in them. They start to wonder if they were ever as significant as they imagined. What once seemed like victory becomes confusion, then regret. Because when you don't return, when your name no longer appears in the theater of their life, their ego begins to starve. That is the quiet genius of indifference. It dismantles the illusion of power without ever lifting a hand. You meanwhile have outgrown the need for punishment. You understand now that time itself delivers it far better than you ever could. You no longer watch for their downfall. You barely notice it when it comes. Life, in its strange symmetry, has already balanced the scales. And when you pass by the ghosts of what used to wound you, you do so with a kind of gentle detachment. You've become someone new, someone they wouldn't recognize. You begin to live in a rhythm that feels different, unhurried, unprovoked. The storms still come, but they no longer knock you down. They pass through you, testing and finding no resistance. They dissolve. You have become weathered, resilient, and beautifully ordinary in your peace. The things that used to consume you now feel trivial compared to the vastness of simply being alive. You smile at strangers, you laugh at small things, you notice light again. That is how healing disguises itself as the quiet return of wonder. Sometimes you catch your reflection and pause, not to admire or criticize, but to recognize. The eyes that once burned with pain now carry something softer, wiser. You realize that indifference, true indifference, was never about not caring. It was about caring more for yourself than for the story someone else tried to write for you. It was about choosing to protect your energy, to keep your dignity, to walk in silence while others screamed for attention. You did not escape the pain, you transcended it. And so you arrive at a place beyond revenge, beyond reaction, a still point where you finally understand what all the philosophers, all the sages tried to say, that peace is not something you find, it's something you build. Each moment you refuse to react, each time you chose silence over chaos, you were laying its foundation. You were teaching your soul that freedom does not need witnesses, that strength does not need noise. So if ever you find yourself haunted by the desire to strike back, remember this time is the river and you are already on its far shore. Let it carry away what no longer serves you. Let absence do the work words never could. And when the urge for revenge whispers, smile gently and keep walking. Because the greatest victory is not proving that you were right, it's living as though the wound never defined you. If this reflection touched something in you, take a moment to breathe before you go. Share this message with someone who needs silence more than anger. Subscribe to stay with us on this journey of growth, resilience, and peace. And in the comments, tell me, what does indifference mean to you now?